Hey, it's simple. You're watching Thorin channel.
Right, what I want to ask is this. When CSGO came out, Blade, as we've talked about, you were in some projects like United when they had money and salaries and stuff. When CSGO first came out, I always tell people that no one should blame the players who quit 1.6 or just played a few months of CSGO and didn't continue, because at the time, not only was the game quite bad looking, but also it wasn't even in like Intel Extreme Masters, for example. It wasn't in the biggest tournaments. And at the time, the perception of pro players and people in the pro community was everything's going to go downhill. The money's going to go downhill. Salary's going to go downhill. Eventually will just be a game like at the time the analogy would be like, I mean, even though this game's big again, things like StarCraft where they just died off a little bit and they weren't the biggest esport anymore. Did Blade ever worry about this? Did you ever think like, should I play CSGO? Or did you ever think it's not a good game? Was there a world where you maybe didn't do CSGO? Were you always going to keep going in Counter-Strike? What was your perspective when the game came out?
Actually, do you remember this North American League when there was like, they had different squads? Like one team had a squad for Counter-Strike, squad for something else. What was the name of the league? Like it was first try of...
Oh, you mean CGS, the Championship Gaming Series, yes, where you have like fighting game person and FIFA game, but right, yeah.
And the prize pool was really big.
Yeah, it was enormous, yeah.
I think some even players was moving to North America. That was unbelievable also. But I was not thinking about playing CSGO. I think there was last tournament in CS 1.6. It was in the Cyber Arena in Kiev.
So when you guys won, right? You won the final battle of the year.
We won. Yeah, we won. The team was KerchNET. There was like very weird lineup. V1, Krutoy, Kraftik, me, and I think Shara were there. I think so. Or Bondik, I think.
Could have been Bondik, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we won. And after that, like, I think KerchNET... there was no tournaments in 1.6 anymore. That's all. And then... But there were tournaments in CSGO. And I think I didn't even think to switch. I just stopped playing. Stopped doing Counter-Strike stuff. And I think maybe in 4 or 5 months, I don't remember actually the period of time, how much time passed. FlipSid3 called me and said that they are creating a team. There's a guy who in CSGO who... Wait, first? No. KerchNET told me that we can switch to CSGO. But I need to find new players. And I took some players from source, Ukrainian source.
Right.
It was very weird team. It was like Rogi, Medvedev, and Mystic, I think. And also I think Krutoy went with me. Only one guy from 1.6 went with me. Other, I think, stopped. Said they don't want to play. Everyone kind of retired. I tried a little bit with this team. Understood the like very poor level of everything. Like the game is different. Like players are not so strong at all. In terms of understanding, like they were saying, like source players will dominate in this game in CS:GO. We need to pick them up. Like it's the best. We picked the best Ukrainian team at that moment, players, and they were like not good at all, like in understanding the Counter-Strike. It was, for me, it was terrible actually. And eventually, I think I stopped with that team. We just also disbanded. And at some point, maybe in 2 months or maybe later, FlipSid3 called me that there's a team, Courage Gaming. And I don't remember if Simple was playing there or not yet. I think it was not yet. And like FlipSid3 showed me that highlight of Simple like on Dust 2 with P250 like on A side, trying to come from short, and he's like doing like in 5 or 6 bullets, killing everyone with headshots. So, wow, who's this guy? They think he's cheating.
Everyone thought he cheated. You can even go back and see the ESL post where it has all the people like, it's obviously cheating. There's no way someone can aim like this. It is a crazy clip, I will say. It was a good clip.
Yes, and after the flip, I said, of course, let's pick this guy. If he's
Of
not
course,
cheater,
yes.
like it's better than I had before, like these
Right.
players. And that's how we started kind of something in this Crash gaming, and then we went to Voronezh, the city Voronezh, to some cup. I don't remember if you won or it was second or third place. I don't remember actually. Maybe you won. Yeah, maybe you won actually. And this is how I kind of started on my road, my path in CSGO.
By the way, along these lines, this brings up an obvious theme in your career from CSGO to when you're a coach now, which is people have the sense, Blade, that you are a good scout. You can sort of see if a player is good and if he could do something, because they look and they see all these names that came through your teams before they came to NAVI. So you had Simple, you had Flamie, you had Electronic, you had a bunch of these players. You had WorldEdit, by the way. You had a whole bunch of players who were like talented players. Like, if people don't know, if the team had had the success, these could all have been HLTV top 20 type players. They were all people that had obvious talent, right? Were these people was it like Simple when you see a player like Flamie or Electronic first time and you're just thinking about them? Is it obvious that this player should join? Were you looking for something specific? Can you give me some stories of the early days of finding these players, Flamie, Electronic?
Actually, I think it's nowadays there are so many people who can scout.
Right.
I don't think it's really hard to scout. I think people call it like eye test, right? Or something.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, you can just go on the server, like, or some public DM and watch just how people move, how they aim, or just. But it's only obviously mechanical skills.
Yes.
After this, you need to check the decision making, the knowledge of the game overall, like how they think, how they see the game, how fast they can like do decision making, and nowadays people always say like there are some stressful situations of the map, the most stressful, and people want to see how these young players like react in these situations. This is kind of the main aspect, let's say.
Right.
What can be a good good for beginner, like maybe, yeah. But I think nowadays it's like, for me, it's enough like to have um, very, very high level of mechanics, very high. So young player must move very sharp, aim very sharp. Everything must be very sharp mechanically speaking. If he's young, you can teach him of how to think in Counter-Strike. It's not so difficult. Day by day, he will learn. But it is basic. Like, basic must come from mechanical for sure, but also communication, a huge thing, and not a lot of players can communicate good enough when they're playing. So it's also important. Like, you can also teach him, or like he will like master by himself. But still, like, for you, of course, it's better to get a player who already like have this habit to communicate constantly, like
Right.
trying to connect with his teammates of what they want to do, all this stuff like about team play and other aspects. And yeah, decision making obviously is very huge, but this is only like let's say it's main aspects, but still one of the most important is mental aspect, like how psychologically strong enough are they strong enough, like psychologically, like mentally, being how they play under pressure, because this is something you cannot sometimes see when you are scouting. So this is very important. Also, personality is also important, like, because when you have this team environment, how people will connect to each other as well, it's also very important, like not to have kind of jerks in your team, like people must respect each other. And it's all come from I don't know how to say it in English. Like it comes from your when you're growing, like your parents teaching you values.
Values and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
just values. It's also very crucial. But for me, it was more like intuition. Always, I don't know. Like there was not a lot of like thousands of players that you need to choose. You just see the player who is um, who is like popping. Like you can see him out of others. Like he is like
Stands out. Yeah.
kinda, yeah. Like you could. He's like not the same as others, and you can
Right.
see it. That's all.
Right.
And at that time, it was, for example, electronic. The funny thing, like for me, was just enough. We were playing versus his team, and I remember like on overpass, he just in the middle of the round like came like from through monster on B and just killed 3 of our players. Like there was like anchor, like short player. I was on like rotation role, and just in the middle of the round, not like in the first seconds, he just came out of monster and killed 3, like bam, bam, bam. And for me, it was just enough to understand. And I know the map, I know the tendencies, I know like how player can think, and if young player like at this point have balls enough like to go through, it means he could see something, could understand something,
Right.
but he knows his capabilities, like that he is capable of doing this, and it was very sharp. And for me, it was enough. Like understood that this player for sure much better than our players. That's all.
Right.
And yeah, for simple, it was, but he was just doing some. At his age, he was doing something unbelievable. Speaking about highlights, and the same I think people could see for Donk nowadays. But at his age, he's doing some really unusual things. Actually, speaking about unusual things, I remember like I was always admiring like Get Right was kind of a player who could create something or sometimes some like crazy moment out of unbelievable like situation that you cannot win, like
Yes.
something unusual, something that people you in a desperate moment you can see him playing when there is no chances to win the round, and you can always know that if there's Get Right, there can be just a miracle can happen this second, and he can turn around everything.
Yes.
And this is not a lot of players are like this,
Sure.
like so. For example, Zaiwu, Simple Donk, these kind of players.
I have a question which people will forget about, which is you technically did do some coaching before it became your full job, where when we had it was technically the 4th CS major. It was Dreamhack Winter 2014. Because your team hadn't qualified, you actually went with HellRaisers, who, if people remember, was the squad that had Simple at this point in time, and it had the old players of Dorsia and people like that, Dren, etc., Angel. Now, the interesting thing about this split is not only do people remember, this is actually where Simple first started to all impress Western audience, because he was like carrying against Fnatic. You guys played against NIP, who almost won the tournament in the playoffs. And the reason I bring this up is, at the time, there's like 2 parts to this. One is that at the time, I actually, this is a random detail, but one of my first videos I did on YouTube, where I was like the character Thorin explaining something, I think it's almost my first Thorin's thoughts, is actually about HellRaisers before this tournament. And I basically sort of flamed the team and said, like, they only know how to play like 2.5 maps, or, they're all baiting, Dorsia's baiting everyone, they don't have tactics. So, and what's funny is, at this event, Angel himself actually told me, we actually watched that video, and actually Blade is going to do like way more in this team, and like we're aware of our problems and stuff, and we know that, like, I think what he was trying to explain was like what we were talking about earlier. He understood that we had like a bunch of skilled players, but we didn't have like modern tactics, and we didn't have like a tactical way of thinking. Were you able to bring much to this team? Because actually this one result seemed like they were a lot better when you were coaching this one tournament than they were otherwise. Am I making too much of it? Did you get to have input to this squad, do you think?
Yeah, I think we didn't have any tournaments. I think we were playing Okay, I think we were. I don't remember what team I had, but I think it was kind
It
of
was that
mixed.
team. You were still on that team.
Yeah,
at the point.
that team. That team. I think at that moment there was already Adren, flamie, maybe. I think so. Yeah, I think we had already Adren, flamie. It's already very strong lineup. Like WorldEdit, and they offered me like to go with them as a coach to practice with them before the major. I don't actually remember. Now I remember. We played qualifiers for this event with my team, and I think Adrian was so sick at that moment. He had some pneumonia, like I don't know, 40 temperature,
Right.
and it was very, very tough for him. And we were really close actually to qualify. There was team, I think ESG or something, with Mike Alele.
Right.
And he was his nickname was at that time XM, I think.
Exum, yes. Yeah, like eczema. Exactly, yes.
And imagine we were playing, it was single elimination, like open qualifier. If you qualify, you already go, I think.
Right.
You just go to major. And we played and we were winning them, I think 12, or maybe it was 15 at this moment, 15. We had a match point. And I think we were like 5 versus 1. I think he won, Michael won versus 5.
Wow, right.
Just imagine, like, we were like match point. If we win, I think we just qualify. And it was maybe 1 of the 4, maybe 1 of the 3, but he made, I think, 8 at the round. And we lost this. And that's why we had nothing to play after this. And that's why we had a we were resting. And they offered me like to go with them to coach them. And yeah, we were practicing in this cyber arena. Then we went to Sweden because at that moment, Valve, I don't know who, was doing boot camps for all teams.
All right.
In Sweden, like they had this thing, like they wanted all teams to have the same kind of level of preparation. They give this. If you don't want, you don't come, but they kind of paying for everything.
Nice.
They bring everyone to Sweden. I think it was in Inferno Online. I think
right,
so,
would make sense. Sure. Yeah,
but maybe it's some other place. And then, everyone was going to Yon Shopping. I think after this,
yes,
on by bus. So we practiced in Kiev, then we practiced online, then we practiced there, in Stockholm, and yeah, I was trying to bring some new ideas. I was trying to explain them, guys, like if in these situations you play like this, building scenarios, like you don't have a kind of upper hand chance of doing this and this. You need some rules, you need some protocols. And we were trying to build protocols mainly because not a lot of time, we didn't have a lot of time. So we were trying to do some new strats, protocols of how to react on city side mostly. But even now, I understand that it was still very weak level comparing to nowadays.
Sure.
But still, yeah, it was first, like I said, first experience. But the funny fact is that you could speak constantly on TeamSpeak.
Yes, there was no
live
rules
game
against coach. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I remember we were playing Cloud9. I was just calling several times something from freeze time. I think they actually wanted me to call more.
Oh, right.
On freeze time.
Right.
Yes. I don't remember, like maybe 50% or maybe more.
Right.
They were, from what I remember, they asked me to call more on T side, not city side. And we won Cloud9 and Fnatic, I think, and we were top.
Yeah.
Went to quarters, and in quarters we lost to maybe, I don't know.
It's NIP.
NAP, yes. And you know what they said? That when we practiced them, they recorded like POV from our practice. And then when we played, before we played, they just watched this.
Oh, right. They sort of cheated a little bit. Well, they got sneaky at least. Let's just say they got sneaky.
Nowadays, you can do this. It's not cheating. Like,
sure. We didn't know about it at the time, right?
We didn't think about this, but nowadays, it's weird. Like you just play Scream and you can see fully on Sky Edge what your opponent is doing, which for me is still like ridiculous.
It's kind of wild,
I think
isn't it?
they
Yeah,
need
true.
to remove this.
Yes.
Because you really want to have Screams. Okay, you can watch your team, but you cannot see the opponents, the lineups of everything.
No, exactly.
This is very bad. I really hope Valve will fix this, because you basically need to have like your own partner teams who you can practice versus who you can practice, because otherwise you will expose a lot of stuff before the tournament.
Yes.
And this has happened versus us before that tournament versus NAP. We practiced them a lot, I think, and we played specifically Inferno. And they said to us that they like knew what we wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah, something like this.
Right. By the way, let's move on a little bit. I have a question now about when the next year in FlipSid, Simple came back. And if you remember, there was this event you played at ESWC where you had to take Eco. This is actually how Simple got into Team Liquid, if people don't know. But the question, Blade, is this. It's not going to be about like beating Nape and all, which is all great stuff. I've asked about that in the past. This is the question. Launders was at the commentator, the Canadian commentator, was at this tournament, and he told a story, Blade, on his stream way back in the day. And I want to ask if this story is true, because this story is fucking crazy, mate. Even though, I hope people understand in this interview, at this point in time, you're already like a veteran player in Counter-Strike. You've been in game leader many, many years. You've been in game leader also of some very famous players, like we say, like Starix and Markelov and some of these great players, Simple himself, Flamie. And then when they were on this team, which, remember, this team came like top 4 at this event, mate. It was like a good team. The story goes that in this, there's a round where you just made what in English we call like a brain fart. You know, where you make like a mistake where you just don't think what to do. And the story goes that you like tried to swap weapons or something and you didn't defuse the bomb in time. It was like you made a simple mistake. You didn't check the time. This is the story I've heard. And Launder says. And he says at the end of this round, Simple was so triggered that he just like said nothing. He just like exited the game, like removed you off Steam Friends. And he was just out of the team after that. It's just like he left. And people right remember, Blade, after this, there was all those interviews where you guys all basically said, this is quite unusual too, people like you and Marklov basically were sort of like, we're kind of glad he's gone. Like, it's actually better not to play with him. He's kind of, you kind of make it sound like he's kind of a dick, right? The question I have is, one, is that story true? And then two, was Simple really like that? Was he really like, because that's kind of crazy for the rookie, like the young player to do that, you know?
You know that there was a little documentary from FlipSid about Simple, if you remember. Like our CEO, Hector, was doing this, Frost. He was doing this little documentary about Simple, about his behavior. And I don't know, I think it's not for a secret for anyone that Simple is not an easy person. And he has this angriness. It's not like in use. I think so. It's not something like I'm exposing. And he was always doing like this new Simple stuff. Remember, like he's kind of difficult personality, but huge talent. This is how it works. We're always comparing him to Michael Jordan.
Of course, yeah.
But he was also like very mean to his teammates sometimes.
Yes.
Not choosing the correct words, like not being so polite, like trying to push the limit in his own way, like he thinks.
Yes.
But speaking about the story, I don't remember like specifically him removing me from France. I remember he was really mad and he was about to change the team, but you know, we lost kind of really tough that game. It was Inferno. I think we lost on CT side or T side. I think on T side it was something like 12-3 or maybe even 14-1.
Right.
Maybe even 14-1, I think.
Right.
It was like full domination. At that point, Guardian was huge.
Of course,
player.
Yeah.
At that moment, he was doing something so unusual that just not that Simple was doing later.
Yes.
For example, he could come like on Inferno T side from boilers, with op, and just picking and destroying like you watching the angle. Like it
Right.
was so weird. Like and he could do it like once, twice, and we just didn't know what to do with him because you need to prep for this maybe like before the game. But I remember I was even asking, saying to Punch, I think he came and asking like me, what is the best game plan versus Navi? You play them a lot, and I said just try to disable Guardian. That's all you need to do.
Kill Guardian.
Really,
yes,
like if he didn't have Guardian, it will be a different team at that
Sure.
moment. That he was doing so much job,
Yes.
and yeah, we lost very tough. And I think at that moment I was so tilted that we are playing like shit and we are like useless on the map that I didn't even focus on defusing the bomb, which is not basically
Right.
good that you're not fighting till the end. But
Sure.
I was desperate. I was so tilted, nervous at the moment that we are losing like this. Like zero chance, kind of like you're just kind of tier 4 versus tier 1, you know? And at this moment, like no synergy, no team play, no good atmosphere. And it was like clutch versus dudes, and I was just didn't care a lot about this. But yeah, I don't remember if it was first side or second side actually, but yeah. Yeah, it was feel like fun memories because we played with Hiko, different languages.
Sure.
And we managed to beat an AP.
Which, by the way, back then was a big deal. Like, this team didn't just lose to people with standings and stuff. It's just one of the best teams in the world still, yeah.
Yeah, and also, we lost to I don't know, who actually won the tournament? Do you remember, Navi or no?
Navi won the tournament, yeah. They beat Cloud9 in the final, if you remember.
Okay, so we were in semis, and then we lost. There was no place for
I don't think it was a third place game. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's all. I think we lost to Navi, the GG. And I think after that, Simple wanted to leave. And I think he was benched, and then he was playing for HellRaisers. But then they wanted to bench him in HellRaisers. Yeah, I think they benched him in HellRaisers also.
Yes. I have another question about Simple in this era, though, Blade. Not later when he got to coach him in Navi. So the question goes like this. It might sound strange, but what you just described about what people will perceive as the negatives of his personality, like he's an incredibly demanding teammate. Sometimes he can be rude with how he expresses himself, or he has like standards that like no one can match. I mean, one of the things I've tried to tell him many times over the years, Blade, is they aren't like you, Simple. They can't do the things you do, mate. Even if you're right that they could, you think they could have done this and killed that guy. They can't. These other players can't. You have to think they're different than you. You have to have different expectations. So my question is this, Blade. This might sound strange, but in a weird way, his very, very strong personality, I actually think, even though it can be a negative maybe in the early days in these teams, I actually think is one of his biggest strengths, Blade. I'll give you the analogy. You know, in the modern day, we don't have many good AWPers in CS2. People say, like, in this game, it's only like, you know, Monacy and Zero, and then the rest, they think they're all average. It's not like CSGO where it was all, like, you know, the top 10 was all AWPers, basically. Well, when you have all these AWPers come along now, one of the players now that I'm quite interested in, Blade, for the same reason, is the player Wrinkle. And the reason why is, not that I've heard anything about him as a teammate, but if you see him public, he doesn't just come along like a young player. Think about your player, Wonderful. Wonderful would be really respectful if he did an interview or said something. He'd be like, you know, I hope I'm going to show a good game and I'm going to try. Wrinkle would be like Simple. He'd be like, I'm the best. Like, I'm actually going to beat this guy. We're going to win this match. Like, in a weird way, Blade, the point I'm trying to get to here is, when someone has a personality like that, it can manifest in a negative way. It can burn the teammates. It can destroy things. But I also feel like if you can get that player to the point where he is a better teammate and a better player, that strength becomes like the ultimate confidence. Like, people, a lot of players in interviews, Blade, will say, like, I think I can be good or the best, but they're lying. They just say it because they know it's a thing that would be popular or people want to hear it. I can tell you from talking to Simple, even back then, he really believes he can be better than Guardian back then, mate. He believes he can beat all the best teams. Like, and unfortunately, he thinks if his teammates let him down, they're stopping him doing that. I know to an outsider, they'd be like, hey, you're just a young guy. Like, you know, give yourself time. What do you think of this? Like, even though it's negative, to me, if you can channel it, if you know, or if you can harness this, it's like the concept would be, Blade, like a wild horse. They say that you don't want to break that horse. You want to just like, you want to ride it. You want to be able to use the strength of it. What would you say to this aspect? Because obviously you've had to deal with the good and the bad of Simple. What would you say about this? He's a very, very confident person, right?
Sometimes he's confident, sometimes not. You know, he's also a human being. And I saw the situations with the grand finals when I saw him not so confident. Like
Right.
I know when he's confident, and I saw a lot of times he was not confident also, which means he has this hesitation, sometimes overthinking, sometimes different. He had different periods. Yeah, he's really hard to manage. Obviously, you need to know how to manage team when he's inside the team also. But this is like a huge dilemma because do we really need this? Like, do you really need one player to be the main strength of your team, or you want to build a synergy, for example? I think it's really hard to build a synergy with these star players, but you can build everything around this player. This is different. If people will, then your players must sacrifice. If they have big ego, other players, it will be hard to manage the team. If they just have not big ego, just understanding that they are number 2, number 3 in the team, like they need to sacrifice. If you want to have these kind of players, others need to sacrifice and understand that in your team, one of the main strengths, one of your main jokers, kind of is this player, and you need to respect that. That's all. It's a completely different approach. You need to build this environment where people put him above. He must be above others, kind of. And yeah, basically, if you unleashed his potential, he can be unstoppable. That's true. But at the same time, like if you look at modern Counter-Strike, this year showed us a lot of interesting things. And I think nowadays, would you consider like Monesi to win major, for example, in Shanghai? But he didn't win it, because it doesn't matter how confident he is, how strong he is. The level is so high right now that you need synergy. You don't need like
Right.
one strong player. If this strong player is with synergy, he can be at least at some point of the round. If you put him in a perfect moment, in a perfect position, or he can position himself in a perfect moment, or you build system around like this, then yes. But for this, like everything must work like very sharp. Like every piece of the team must work towards this idea. And if someone will hesitate or will not believe in this, or will play for himself, everything will be destroyed, like kinda, and then no need of this player. And it's really hard to play nowadays the same like Simple was playing, I don't know, in Liquid, for example. It's really hard. Yeah, like it's not about this anymore. Like it's more about doing steps in the round. It's not about like go kill, even don't like things that he can do. People can repeat, kinda. Like yes, he has crispy aim, but the level of individual level is so huge nowadays that a lot of players can out aim him if he's playing city side also.
Right.
Like there's like there are some the list of super sharp riflers, and it's like at least 15.
Sure. Yes.
I think
Yeah.
at least, and they can easily go and kill Dong in any position.
Right, one of the things I would say as an in-game leader in CSGO you were very famous for was you had this really crazy ability to qualify to majors, where, as you say, back in the day there was online qualifiers, but then people forget there used to be, I actually think it's superior to what we have now. We didn't have RMRs, there was just one big LAN qualifier. Now it's basically the first Swiss system of the major, and it's everyone plays everyone. So to actually make it into majors in the era we're talking about, it's quite hard. This isn't where you just make it because you won't come in top 8 in most of these majors, so you had to each time go through the real qualifier a bunch of times. And then also, if anyone goes back, Blade, in the rest of the circuit, your team wasn't really that relevant. Like, you weren't beating the big teams in the big LAN matches. So every time it came to this LAN qualifier, I'm pretty sure everyone picked your team as one of the ones that's going to get beaten and not get through. But somehow, it feels like every single time you made it, mate. Can you give us some thoughts? By the way, one other detail is, there was even a whole year period where, because Simple was banned from ESL, you couldn't even use Simple when he was the best player in your team, and you still qualified to all these majors, even with stand-ins, Davkost and Shara coming back and all these players. Like, Bondic was back there. These weren't superstar names, but somehow you qualified every time. Can you give me some sense? What was the secret? Why specifically majors? Why so good in this area? Like, if you went to a random, like Dreamhack Summer, you wouldn't have the same results. So what do you think it was about majors? What was the secret, Blade?
I think the secret is magic about the major. I don't know who created this trend or like showed the case, like first case of like people can be inspired of. But I think nowadays I see a lot of times the same thing, like people how passionate they are about major and how important it's for them. Even now, even this major like was Passion UA, one of the teams. Back a little bit in the past, I think Bad News Eagles was kind of the same team.
Yes.
So there were some cases about the same as FlipSid, but for us, maybe we created this tendency for ourselves. Once you experience it, you create like some unique value for this tournament. Maybe it was like this, I don't know. But a lot of times it was people played the highest potential, like they were trying to do the best constantly. Maybe I think it was a coincidence that we played good on majors and played bad outside of majors. I think it was a coincidence. I will explain why. Because I think we didn't have a good professional. It was not super professional from our perspective, from my perspective. The way how we were doing routine, for example.
Right.
Nowadays it's different. Like we didn't have a lot of boot camps. We were practicing a lot of online, but still, we must understand. Like everything is kind of raw. It's like a raw. For me, it's like still a raw industry where everything is not so understandable, and it's not like people have all necessary knowledge to compete, to build, to everything. And at that moment, partly for sure it was my mistake that I didn't change the lineup a lot of times, which is really hard because you kind of feel comfort with players, with people, and at some moment, the best way was to go and choose new young players like Electronic, for example. Then instead, like sticking to the same lineup because you get used to this. I think the players not all of our players were like practicing enough to be the best outside of majors. And I think before majors, a lot of times we were doing before qualifiers for majors. I think it was minors at some point. We were doing boot camps specifically before this, and it also helped. But after, imagine you are a team qualifying to the majors, then you are losing, and you understand that you are not tier one team.
Yes.
Right? You're capable of being like underdog, but still like being realistic. You don't need to have these spin glasses. You understand that you are not like this Brazilian team, for example, or you're not an AP, you are not Astralis, obviously, but Astralis was later, but Fnatic, for example, had a huge error, and you're not even close to that. And even NAVI back then was kind of strong, and we were not like their level even close. So you understand that you don't have chances to be the best. So what should you do? Like I think we were just playing and not improving a lot. And to improve, we needed to change the lineup to add more strong players, more motivated players, to find more budget. And one of the main issues was also we didn't have a lot of budget in FlipSid. We couldn't like buy players
Right.
from everything. We needed to find them, and it was always a risk of unknown. In the days, I was afraid of this unknown. I didn't want to risk, like, I know this player, I can rely on him. And yeah, that strategy would be for sure like to constantly evolving, changing players, doing more, finding more budget, like for boot camps, trying hard as much as possible to succeed. And who knows, like maybe I would have more confidence, because at the end of my play career, I was playing not so good individually, and I was going down more and more. And I think when I think about this now, like the approach I have, for example, in the team now in NAVI, with this knowledge, if we jump back, 10 years ago, for example, not 10, it was like 5 or 6. I think I could build everything differently,
Right.
as an IGL, and I even like create more space for myself to play in the game, not to micromanage.
Right.
Which I understood that micromanaging is not good at all.
Let me ask you a question about that then, because one of the things we can do in a minute, I'll skip to when you become a coach, so this will be very relevant. A lot of the perception of you at the time, I can tell you, even in the CIS scene, Blade, was that Blade is too old school and he's trying to do the micromanaging style, like you say, where basically the idea is it's why your team is very, very slow team and it's all slow build up and waiting to get information. And I can tell, by the way, it makes sense if you're that type of in-game leader. You want all the information to make your decision. You want to read the opponent. You want to think in your demo review of what they're building up, what conditioning and stuff. But the problem is, as you say there, a lot of people think that style was outdated. I mean, I can tell you the very famous Belgian in-game leader Existence had the same problem, mate. He was a very, very great thinker. All the players, by the way, told me this guy was a genius at the game, but they think he tried to be too controlling. He was trying to control every aspect like it was 1.6. Do you think this was just like outdated in CSGO? Was this an old style, do you think?
I think it's not about even outdated. I think it's just a matter of time. I think it was originally very poor approach, but the only one that people knew was kind of effective.
Right.
And they didn't have another like choice. But yeah, overall, like it was just a matter of time when this kind of style would be not effective. Not even like speaking rationally, like it's not effective because it's stupid to have this approach. I don't know how people didn't understand that back in the days. It was so obvious. Maybe if they would be more like open-minded, they would understand this immediately, like watching other sports. But yeah, maybe we can say that gamers are not so smart. I don't know.
I don't think that's breaking news, but yeah, true. What about? Go on, keep going.
Yeah, but for sure it's outdated, and I think it was just a matter of time when people will realize that micromanaging is destroying the round.
Yes. I do have a specific tournament I do want to ask about, which is when I said earlier, Blade, that there was many times you qualified to the major. Unfortunately, in most cases, that was the end of the story. The cool part was qualifying, and then at the major, you just get knocked out of the group stage. You had this one major where FlipSid, if people don't know, actually made it to top 8. It was ESL Cologne 2016, and it was the one where, here's the detail. There's 2 details about this. I have a very good memory. I don't know how good your memory is. We'll see. One is, in the group stage, to actually qualify to the playoffs, you guys had to beat NIP in a best of 3. And this was the NIP that had won like Malmo. And by the way, you didn't just beat them. One of the maps, you beat them on their map Catch, which was their best map. 16-2. You just smashed them. And by the way, for people who don't know, this isn't one of the flip sides with like Simple, Electronic. This is the one with like Markelov and WorldEdit and, you know, like not the very skilled ones. So first you beat NIP, and then in the playoffs, the only team that beat you was the winner. It was SK Gaming, who at the time was the best team. And there's a little detail, which is at the time, they just brought out the rework of Nuke, DE Nuke, but nobody was playing it. So you picked it as your map in the season. I can guarantee, Blade, I'm willing to bet money they never expected this pick ever. And you almost won this map, even though at the time people know they were just the best team in the world. You must have some thoughts about this run. This sounds amazing. This sounds like some of a movie.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I think before that, we played in Cologne versus Brazilians at the beginning of their path. And we were playing to qualify again for playoffs. It was Cobblestone. It was best of one. And we had a match point like 15-12.
Right.
It was like crazy game when I played like really good stats with Markelov. And we had like we were one step like of being top 8 at that time. And we would also stop them of being,
right.
I think they got slot because when you are top 8, you have a slot for another one.
Yes.
So I think it changed for sure their progress, evolution for sure. It changed. I think they lost in the first round of playoffs. It was at that time it was Keith Stars of something like
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
the name.
Yeah.
There was still Coldzera was only the beginning of his career, also like being a star. I think I don't know if Taco was actually there, but I think Fair was there. So we lost them there. So we already had this kind of rivalry between us, and I think everything could change even for our team if we go top 8 the tournament, and we were really really close. And after that, there's another game, like I said, in playoffs. At this moment, they're already favorites. And I think
everyone
they won,
thought
right?
they were guaranteed to win the tournament. Yeah, of course. They should destroy FlipSide, everyone would say, yeah.
Yeah, Nuke was quite interesting. I remember that we picked them this because we knew they didn't expect, but I don't remember how it happened. Why? I think there was some random aspect about veto. I think there was some rules.
I think on the third map it was randomized or something, if you know what I mean. Wasn't it that? Wasn't it like but this was your map pick though?
Yes, third time was randomized, right? Randomized, but maybe there was something about veto. I don't know how they allowed this map to be inside. I don't think they were playing it.
No, I don't think so. No. Almost no one was picking it though, to be fair.
Yeah.
No one was picking it at the time.
I don't remember aspects, but we picked them without, like, it was no-brainer for us. We knew that we had a chance. But yeah, we were not like this kind of, again, professional team, because I remember, like, they picked Mirage, we were playing Mirage, and at some point, I remember Shara was, like, on spawn, like, spinning around like something happened with his mouse.
Yes, as though it looked like the spin botted at the major. I remember this, yeah.
And it was like for 2 rounds, and instead of saying like stop, he was saying he was kind of a little bit weird at this moment, and he was not saying a lot of stuff. We were playing like, what happened? Should we stop?
Kept playing.
No, stop. We just lost 2 rounds because of it. I think because of this, I think. And yeah, we had a chance to win actually. Nuke.
Yes.
I don't think it was
an overtime game.
Them.
Yeah, it was a really close game. It was overtime, mate.
But on Nuke, we could avoid overtime. I remember like WorldEdit going out of the vent. There was a window in the hut, and he is aiming in the back of somebody, and he's missing, and we have OT, I think, because of this. Right. I think so. When we won an AP, we were in a momentum. Fully momentum. Like I remember, like we won cash, playing fully momentum, and then we went to Mirage with this feeling of having this momentum, and we were just so confident. It was very strong. I felt like players are they're playing different level. Like
Right.
players, like even Waylander was so confident, constantly speaking, like aiming like crazy, like crispy, and out aiming NAP. It's also kind of magic of these big
Right.
events of majors when people kind of jump over there like.
I mean, think of this final at the major
Yes.
Magics. He was like having the game of his life in the final. Like, I've never seen this guy play like that before. Yeah.
Yes, and a fun fact that at this event, Kane was our analyst.
Oh, yes.
I think this was the time when he only just he was trying to get back to CS
Yes.
because he retired a long time ago. And at this moment, people say sometimes he was our coach, but he wasn't. He was analyst
Right.
only. And I think he even couldn't stay behind, if I remember, because we didn't register him like
Right.
as a coach. But yeah, at that time he was the only analyst, and we were like more teaching him
Right.
what is like modern Counter-Strike,
Right.
like what is CSGO overall. And I remember this funny thing that the video you speaking
Yes.
to me in the lobby. After this video, I was like,
He got in trouble, right? Even though, by the way, I did tell the org, like, if people don't know, there was a video where they're like sort of like in the lobby of the hotel after the after party, everyone was sitting in like the chairs area, drinking like more vodka and having drinks and stuff. And so you have to understand, this video, he was already really drunk in this video. Like, I never took anything personal playing. It is funny though. He was just trying to like, basically, he was trying to like tell me, it's like where a lot, you know this, a lot of players and coaches do this. If they just get triggered by something I say, they try and like tell me I don't know anything. But he was trying to actually like argue and explain to me why I don't know anything about the game. And he's like the mastermind who picked all the things in FlipSid. So it was quite funny, I have to say. But he got in trouble, right? Didn't he like almost get fired or something because of this?
yeah, this video was all around, and our like COO like told me like in the morning like what is this? It's like last drop. We cannot
Sure, the last
we
straw,
cannot
yeah.
tolerate this. Like we need to fire him. And yeah, unfortunately, and then he was like I said, he was a huge fan of Zeus, like from
Of
1.6, and
yeah.
eventually he brought him to I don't know where actually, maybe first to NAVI or to Gambit.
I think it was
don't
Gambit
remember.
first, maybe. I'm not sure on that one though. Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, maybe.
What about this then? One last question, actually, just because you've just reminded me of it. Bro, the other thing about that tournament and Shara is that was the tournament when he just fell in the middle of the stage. Now, here's the thing, Played. I don't know if he got injured, so I hope in real life it was all okay, but it was really funny, I can't lie. Like even the video, the way he turns around, like a cartoon. He just turns around like, you know, when like Roadrunner try and run across the air, and he doesn't know. And like that, he just turned like, can you tell what happened? Did you just look around like, what the fuck?
Yes. Our team was kind of like really funny. Like this story about Kane in the lobby, huge story like how he actually came to this tournament. Also funny, like he didn't want first to come, then he came like in the middle of boot camp. He said, "Okay, I'm ready," without money, like just came with lot of clothes, and the story about like we winning like an AP. We're not super favorite. Then we're on the stage. Shara is jumping down. Then he's spinning around versus SK. Like it's so like surreal. I don't know.
Sure.
Like people are. I don't know how to. I didn't know how to explain it. It's more like, more like funny guys just trying to show their best, because we're not like professionals, I think, at the moment at all, comparing to what is teams nowadays, like how they prepare, how they like prepare before the match, how they do like their routine, like how they mentally like trying to tune in, all this stuff. It was more like people just coming, playing, and not thinking a lot about. They could drink beer in the or several beers like in the evening. And I remember these times when some players were like going nightclubs before major finals.
Yeah.
Full like drunk. Yeah. So I don't know. Times changed, but not for everyone, obviously. I think there's still some players like this,
Sure.
but majority is different.
Yes. By the way, I want to ask a question before we go to when you coached NAVI. Since you got to coach Electronic in NAVI, and he was obviously one of your main players, and he eventually became the in-game leader, when you used to have him in FlipSid, was he a different type of player than he was in NAVI?
Yes, he fully changed. He in FlipSid he was very young. He had his vision, but he was listening a lot. He was learning, and we were speaking with him a lot. He was really strong player back then, even. And I remember I funny moment. I remember that I wanted him to leave to Navi actually.
Oh, right.
Because it looked like he was the only one from our team who was not at his place.
Right. He was too
And
good.
I remember when, yes, I understood like when he had this chance to go Navi, I think it was super right decision and kind of justified that I asked our staff like to sell him because this is what, if he has this opportunity, that we must help him to get it because he can change his career fully. And yeah, eventually they were speaking about the price and yeah, they finalized it not instantly, but in 1 month I think they made the deal. But yeah, he was different player in Navi. When I came, he was already played with Simple like for 1 or more, even maybe 2 years, maybe more, I don't know. And he was so confident, much more experienced already. He and Simple back then was dominating like the team completely. They were like outplaying just by individual moves every time.
They say no man is an island. We all need people who've got our back. And supporting me and the content on my channel are the following people: Matt Pugnaccio Racula, The Concept, Animosity, Bane Diesel, Ben Glass, Jason, Jensen Gore, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it. Always a special thanks goes up to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where I talk about whatever topics are on your mind? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are, or maybe even to suggest a guest or a topic for my content? If any of those perks or others catch your fancy, well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? In the Patreon link in the description box below.